look at determining significant figures. So how do we determine how many numbers are significant? Okay, significant figures are all the digits in a measured number, including one estimated digit. All right, so we in the previous video learned what an estimated digit is and how we include it in our measurement. All right, so when we look at a number, there are numbers that are significant and ones that are not, okay? And so later on, you'll be reporting answer to a certain number of significant figures. All right, and these have to all do with measured numbers, okay? Exact numbers do not play a part in this. So if you need a refresher on exact versus inexact numbers, watch the part 1 of this series. All right, all non-zero digits are always significant. So that narrows down everything except for zeros. So all of our non-zero digits, so here we have 65.2. It's got 3 significant digits. And I actually call them sig figs or SF. All right, if we look at the next one, the 2, the 5, the 5, the 3, the 4, and the 5, they're all non-zero numbers, so we have 6 sig figs. Okay, and then we have a unit afterwards because all of our numbers need to have some type of unit. Okay, so we have, like I said, 3 and 6. All right, rules for the zero. So that is where the concern is at this point. All right, if we have zeros or a zero, that I call these sandwiched. So that's how I think of these. Go ahead and get our answers here, it's fine. So I call these sandwiched zeros, meaning they're in between 2 non-zero digits. All right, so this 0 here and these 2 there. If they're in between 2 non-zero digits, then they are always significant. Okay, so these do count as significant figures. All right, so here we would have 4, the 2, the 9, the 0, and the 5, because the 0 is sandwiched in between. And then we have 5, because both of those zeros are in between. It's in between the 1 and the 8. All right, so there's 4 and 5 sig figs there. All right, if the 0 is what I call a trailing 0, okay, trailing means it's following behind or trailing a non-zero digit, okay, these are significant as long as you have a decimal place. So that sets the tone here. So you look for a decimal. If you have a decimal place, then anything behind that decimal, including zeros, are significant. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 significant figures. Here, see how that decimal place was put there? You may not have seen that before or kind of thought that that looks funny. Why would you do that? The reason is because that 0 is significant. So someone measured to that precise, accuracy here, and it's 620. So that makes that 0 a significant digit. So we have 3 in the last one there. All right, so 2 rules for when a 0 is not significant. So real quick, a refresher. If the 0 is in between 2 non-zeros, sandwiched, it is significant. And if it trails a decimal, okay, or has a decimal after it, so that kind of, okay, this is still a trailing 0 because it's behind a 2 there, okay, but it has a decimal after it, and so it makes it significant. All right, rules for zeros not significant is when you have zeros in the beginning or leading zeros. So I call these leading. Okay, if they are out in front of a non-zero digit, Doesn't matter if there's a decimal place there. Okay, if they're leading, they are not significant. Okay, so we'll go through all of these and look at how many significant figures there are. Okay, but the last rule is a number that trails, so these are trailing zeros that do not have a decimal. So previously we saw that they were significant with a decimal, but if they do not have a decimal place and they are trailing, then they are not significant. So if we look at the first one here, we have 3 significant digits, the 2, the 4, and the 5. The zeros are not. Here we only have 1 significant figure because all 3 of these zeros are leading or in the beginning. Okay, this 0 is not significant. Okay, you don't cross it out necessarily, but I'm just showing you that it would only have 3 significant digits. And then if you look here, we have 5. Okay, these 2 zeros are trailing and there's no decimal place to be found. Okay, so I always like to put in some practice so that we can take what we've learned and put it into practice. So if you want to pause this and answer these and then come back and watch for the answers, that is fine. All right, so A, looking at our zeros and determining where they fall. So these zeros, I like to think of these as leading. So if you look back at your previous slide, these zeros are not significant. If they lead out in front of a non-zero digit, they are not significant. Okay, here's one that trails. Okay, so here's where we have kind of 2 rules for trailing zeros. If it trails a decimal place, and a decimal place is included somewhere, then it is significant. All right, so here we're going to have 4 significant figures. These are not significant here, but this one, it is. Okay, so the 2, the 6, the 5, and the 0 make for 4 significant digits. All right, for the next one, we have that sandwiched 0, as I call it. It's in between 2 non-zero. Doesn't matter about the decimal in this situation. It is significant. So all the numbers here are significant. The 4, the 3, the 0, the 2, the 6. So we have 5 significant figures. All right, and the last one there, we have a 1, 0, 4, 4. So all of these are significant because this one is sandwiched, okay, and the one in the middle is significant. And then we have 3 that are trailing. Okay, this time we have to go back to our rule for the trailing zeros that are following behind the non-zero numbers, and there's no decimal place. So if there's no decimal place, then these are not significant. Okay, so we have 4 significant figures. Okay, the difference here, this 0 up here was significant because it was following or had a decimal place included. Okay, these 3 trailing zeros, there's no decimal place, therefore they are not significant. All right, I hope this little video and practice helped, and I'm sure you can find lots of practice with these from your book or online or anywhere. So there's lots of numbers. We could pick any number and look at it and figure out the significant digits for it. But I will see you in the part 3 of the significant figures video. Thank you.